Okay, we are learning Lila Nishmas Mindel Mariam Bas Kalman Ruben and Hashem Hashem Aliyah. We're on the bottom of Kuf Yud Ches Amud Aleph. A lot of interesting Gemaras today. Okay, so says the Gemara 118a3 or Kuf Yud Ches Amud Aleph, all the way on the bottom. Amar Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Yossi, second to last line on the Amud. Kol Ma'anig es a Shabbos. Anyone who delights in Shabbos, we'll define what that means soon. But anyone who delights in Shabbos, Nostan Lo Nachala Bli Mitzarim, is given a boundless heritage. In other words, a person is given like boundless wealth. Shnemar Az Tisanag al Hashem. Then you will you'll be granted pleasure with Hashem. I'll put you on the heights of the world, and I'll provide you nachlas Yaakov vicha, with the heritage of Yaakov your forefather. So Hashem says, if you have this oneg, whatever this oneg is, and this oneg is the beginning of the pasuk is if you proclaim the Shabbos a delight. So the Taman oneg Shabbos, then you will get the heritage of Yaakov. So Gemara says, Lo ka'Avram shkasabo kumis alach baretz larka, not the heritage of Avraham, who it says go and walk the length and the width of the land. And not about Yitzchak, who it says, you and your offspring I'll give these lands. Rather Yaakov, who it says, and you will burst out westward, eastward, northward, and southward. In other words, there's no border. It's limitless. This is one of the sources that speak about the fact that when a person invests, when a person spends money on Shabbos, then it's not, it doesn't count. This is part of this in the sense that Hashem says, I'm going to give you absolute reward, infinite reward. The idea being that a person who, and this has to be done right. In other words, a person who buys food for Shabbos, the kavod Shabbos Kodesh, and okay, bottom line is I want a steak, and I feel good. It's an excuse to have an steak. That's not what we're talking about. A person who really is focused on Shabbos and really doing it for the sake of honoring Shabbos and the pleasure of Shabbos. Shabbos is something which is otherworldly, and therefore the idea is that when we spend our money, when we invest in things which are finite, the physical world around us, our cars, our clothes, whatever it is, okay, so then the impact is going to be finite as well. But when we're truly investing in something which is spiritual, spirituality is something which is infinite, and then therefore the reward it's not part of this world. But again, it's only if it's not a shtick. If a person is just saying I'm doing this because of Oneg Shabbos, but I'm doing it for self-serving purposes, and I'm kind of hiding behind Oneg Shabbos, it's okay, it's nice, but it's not exactly who the Gemara here is referring to. Okay. It's a good question. The Gemara seems to say the pasuk itself seems to be Shabbos alone. Yeah. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar, Nitzal Meshibud Galios. The person who does so, again, correctly, is saved from the oppression of exile. Here in this pasuk, it says, I will take you on the heights of the world. Okay, the word Bama. You will trample upon the haughty ones. And over there, too, we use the word Bama, and Bama, in that context, is the enemies of the Jewish people, in the sense that if you keep Shabbos properly, you will be able to not be limited by our enemies. Amar Yehuda Marav, Kol Ma'aneg Es HaShabbos. I was just, by the way, just saw a crazy story. I forgot, one of the hostages who was stuck in Gaza, and his friend came out and he said that while he was there, they were not Shomer Shabbos. They decided to keep Shabbos. So what does keeping Shabbos mean when you're stuck in a tunnel? When you're stuck in a jail, and basically they're given flashlights. They're given flashlights. That's the one. They're given flashlights they could see, and so that for them keeping Shabbos was remembering whatever words of Kiddush that they knew, and not sitting in absolute darkness for 25 hours. They calculated what day was Shabbos. They don't use a flashlight on that day. So these guys were keeping Shabbos. They decided on their own to keep Shabbos, and so. Okay, Mitzvah Hashem, they should be able to overcome their enemies. They should go free. Okay. Am Rav Yehuda Marav, Kol Ma'anig Es HaShabbos Nosan Lam Shalos Libo. A person who keeps Shabbos, or rather delights in Shabbos, is granted his heart's wishes. Shneimar V'Yis'aneg Al Hashem Yiten Lecha Mishalos Libecha. Take delight in Hashem, He will grant your heart's wishes. Oneg Zeh Eni Yadei Mahu. What is this oneg? This pasuk, it doesn't say explicitly which oneg it is. Shu Omer B'Kras Shabbos Oneg. When the other pasuk says, the pasuk in Yeshaya says, and that you will call Shabbos a delight. Havi Omer Zeh Oneg Shabbos. So we see whenever it says oneg, we could assume it's Shabbos, and therefore that other pasuk is a reference to a person who is delighting in Shabbos, and Hashem will fulfill all their needs. So I ask the Gemara now, in what way do we, what is this delight that we're talking about? Rav Yehuda Bered Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas Mishmeid Rav Amar B'tavshel Shel Shradin, a dish of cooked beets, V'dagim Gedolim, and large fish, V'rash Shumin, and cloves of garlic. Okay? Okay, that's what it means. But basically, those were considered special foods. Bottom line is a person should be eating special foods on Shabbos. Some actually say that there is a mitzvah, an absolute mitzvah. Some say deraisa even, but almost everyone disagrees that a person has to have fish at every meal. But most disagree. Most understand that it means the person should have special food, whatever special food is in your society. Even a small thing, but it's done for the honor of Shabbos. That is considered oneg. Mahi, what is that? Amar Papa, kasa Kasa de Harsana. Kasa Harsana was like a very, very cheap fish, like herring of the day. Basically, he's saying that you don't have to buy the most expensive things like large fish and cooked beets, which are all fancy and expensive things. Even a small thing, the point is, as long as it's being done truly in the honor of Shabbos, that is what's important, and that is the Oneg Shabbos that is being referenced over here. Okay. Amar Rav Chia, Bar Abba Amar Rav Yochanan, Kol Shabbos Shabbos Kol Chasa, anyone who keeps Shabbos according to its law, Filo Ovid Avodah Zar Kedar Enosh Mochalo. Even if they worship idols like the generation of Enosh, you are forgiven. Enosh was the first generation, according to our sages, that introduced, with the simple read of the Psukim, that introduced Avodah Zara. So that's obviously like the word, like, it's one thing if it's already was here, but the Enosh was the generation that started it. Nonetheless, if a person keeps Shabbos properly, Hashem will forgive their sins, even if they were like the generation of Enosh. Hashem will forgive the sins. Shnemar Ashri Enosh Yasazos. Shomer Shabbos Mechalalo. So Ashrei Enosh could mean person, but Enosh could also be a reference to the generation of Enosh. Al Tikrei Mechalalo, from desecrating it. Ella Machulo, rather read that word Machulo, it's forgiven to him. Like the Mefarshim explained, it doesn't mean that you just keep Shabbos, Hashem forgives your sins. It means that you could do tshuva. Normally, a person, there's certain averos where tshuva itself does not forgive. Rather, a person. Rather, a person's death is what's going to cause their ultimate forgiveness. But keeping Shabbos properly, that ensures that a person's able to get their forgiveness even while they still live, and not necessarily through their death, but a person's able to get forgiven for what they did. So even a person did Avodah Zarah, served Avodah Zarah, one of the worst sins, or the worst sin, person keeping Shabbos properly, machulo, it is forgiven to him. Amar Rav Yehuda Rav, Ilmali Shama Yisrael Shabbos Rishona, had the Jewish people kept the first Shabbos, lo shalta behen uma v'lashon, no other nation could have affected them. When the Jewish people were given Shabbos the very first time, we know that some of the people went out even though Moshe said, do not go out, do not collect the man, they did not obey, they disobeyed, and had they all kept it, no nation would have impacted them. Shnemar, as it says, on the seventh day, the very first Shabbos, some of the people went out to gather, even though they were told that is Asar on Shabbos. The passage almost immediately afterwards says, that Amalek came and attacked them. So you see, had they not, the juxtaposition between the two is to teach us that had they not desecrated Shabbos, then the enemies would not have attacked them. Amar Rav Yochanan, Mishum Rav Shimon Yochai, Ilmale Misham Yisrael Shtei Shabbosos Kilchasam Yani Galim. If the Jewish people only keep 2 Shabboses, right? Famous idea. If the Jewish people keeping 2 Shabboses, they would be redeemed immediately. Shnemar Ko Amar Hashem L'Sarisim. This is from Yeshaya, the end of Yeshaya. So says Hashem regarding the eunuchs. Asher Yishmar Shabbososai, who observe my Shabbosos, right? The 2 Shabboses, plural. It says immediately after that, Vaviyosim Har Kachi, the pasuk that we were going to read over and over again on Yom Kippur. And today, it's Slichos, I'll bring them to my mountains. Hashem's going to reestablish the house of prayer, rebuild the base of Mikdash, and there'll be karbanos. And that only happens if we keep 2 Shabbosos. The Mefarshim explain that keeping 1 Shabbos is good, but the idea is that the week gets its energy from the Shabbos that we keep. And so keeping 1 Shabbos is okay, but the idea is beautiful. But the idea is if we kept Shabbos properly, that Shabbos now energizes the next Shabbos and brings that Shabbos to the level that it has to be at. But that idea is an important, and that's why it's 2 Shabbos specifically, 2 Shabbosos successively, one after another. And the idea being that a person that for us to keep in mind, like, and the way we act on Shabbos is going to impact the rest of our week. It's not like a static thing. It's not the culmination of the week. It's actually the energy for the week ahead. Okay. Amar Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi says, my portion should be among those who eat 3 meals. What is he referring to? It seems like in his day, people did not eat shalosh shidduchos, and therefore he is trying to demonstrate how important it is to eat shalosh shidduchos. Rav Yossi, another message from Rav Yossi, similar type of phraseology. My portion should be among those who say Hallel every day. The Gemara questions this. What does it mean to say Hallel every day? A person says Hallel every day is belittling and blaspheming and cursing Hashem. Why? Why would I be cursing Hashem? The idea is that if we say Hallel every day, that shows that we don't actually have any special awareness when special things happen. In other words, we have to recognize there are differences in the world. We can't be like empty, sometimes there's this like notion like everything is great. Everything is great. But you have to recognize between greats and greats. You have to be able to be mavda, you have to be separate. So a person says Hallel every day is saying, every day is great miracles. No. When Iran rains down 200 missiles and nothing happens, that is Hallel worthy. Okay, but when a person, wakes up in the morning, that's also special, but it's not Hallel, right? And we have to be able to distinguish, and when we don't, that actually is seen as a bad thing. So what was he referring to? Because he can't be referring to saying the actual hal. Ki kamrinan psukit zimra. He's referring to psukit zimra. What we're going to say in a few minutes. The idea of psukit zimra is a form of hal, and in psukit zimra we say many halukas, and that is what he was referring to, and that it's so incredibly important to say psukit zimra every day, and not to miss it. Amar Rav Yossi, Rav Yossi further said, my portion should be among those who daven during the redness of the sun. What's the redness of the sun? That is a reference to when the sun goes up and when the sun goes down. When the sun goes up, you look out during sunrise, it's very red, and when the sun goes down, it's very red again. And the idea was he davened Shachris at sunrise, he davened Mariv, Mincha when as sunset, just at that time, and that's what he's saying. My portion should be among those people. The Gemara was in Baba Mitzvah, I think. Somewhere the Gemara talks about the fact that the reason it's red is because it's red in the morning because the sun, so to speak, passes by Gan Eden and gets the shine of the beauty of Gan Eden, and at night, towards the end of the day, it gets the shine of Gehenna. But there's an idea over here in the sense that every day we recognize like our day could go either way. It could be a Gan Eden day, a Gehenna day, and we basically the idea is obviously to pick the right one and also to recognize that there's going to be a new cycle. Yes, maybe our day ends not always the best day, but the Boca Arena, right? We perhaps sometimes go to sleep with tears, but we wake up with cries of joy, and to recognize that even if our day ends on the redness of Gehenna, we're able to wake up with the redness of Gan Eden. Here's Hashem. Okay. Amar Rav Chi Amar Bar Abba Amar Rav Yochanan. Mitzvah l'spalim. I just did that. No, mitzvah l'spalim d'mechama. We did not. Okay, it's a mitzvah to pray during the redness of the sun. Amar Rav Zera Ma'ikrom. It's a pasuk. Yira'uchem shemesh. May they see you or fear you with the sun, l'fnei reach dorim, and before the moon. But this throughout all generations. But the idea is that they will see you or fear you, which is a reference to tefillah with the sun. Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi. Another statement from him. My portion should be among those who die of intestinal disease. Okay, Damar Mar. Why? Because it was said, Ruben shall tzadikim meis b'chol me'ayim. The majority of righteous people die from stomach ailments. So he was saying, I should die. It's incredibly painful, and that's kind of the point. The idea is that a person whatever averos, we all have averos in this world, and we want to receive we don't want to receive our punishments in the world to come, and therefore the tzaddikim oftentimes will die sometimes in a very painful way. But the idea is that is something which heals them. It's something which ultimately cleanses them completely. So when they enter into Gan Eden, it's a clean slate. So he says, I want to die in that same way, so I'll have that clean slate when I enter into Shemayim. Rav Yossi, mitzvah. My portion should be among those who die while on the way to perform a mitzvah. Now, this is a little bit strange because we have another Gemara, Sukkah, and elsewhere that says that shluchei mitzvah lo nizaken, that those who are doing a mitzvah will not get punished, not get injured, and not get damaged. And the Mefarshim explained there's a difference. You will not get harmed while you're doing it, like in the mitzvah itself. But sometimes on the way to do it, meaning the mitzvah itself will not be the cause of harm. But it could be on your way to do a mitzvah, something bad will happen to you. And the idea being that a person, we should die in the process of doing something positive, right? Like Rabbi Kiva says, who dies with the words echad on his lips. The idea is that we want to be dying, not doing something shameful, not doing something embarrassing, not doing something inane. The idea is that we should die in a moment of holiness. That is his aspiration. Rav Yossi, final statements from Rav Yossi, a few more. My portion should be among those who begin Shabbos in Tiberia and end Shabbos in Sipori. What is he referring to? Tiberia was in a valley. And because it's in a valley, sometimes they would get dark earlier, the sun might be blocked, and they would start Shabbos a little bit earlier. Tzipori is on a mountain, and therefore they would wait. If you've ever been on a mountain, and watching sunset, you're the last one to see the sun go down. So essentially what he's saying is I should start Shabbos early, and I should end Shabbos late. My portion, so back in the day, that people who would, make sure that the students would go to yeshiva. That was one job, to find them seats, to get them seated, tell them it's time to learn. And there are others who would tell them it's time for lunch, time for dinner. So they would be the ones to interrupt. He said, I want to be the one who seats them, who want to encourage them to learn, and not the one who gets them out of the base matters. From Rav Yossi, my portion should be among those who collect tzedakah, and not among the one who distributes. Collecting, you're only doing mitzvahs. We all know that there are needs. So when you go around collecting, you're getting a mitzvah. Giving, there's a danger. You might be giving to the wrong person. You might end up offending someone, and therefore he says, I want to be the one collecting, not the one distributing. Fascinating. He says, my portion will be among those who are suspected but are free of guilt. There's an incredible amount of perseverance and strength needed when a person is accused of something they did not do. Some point out that when sometimes a person has enemies. Now, an enemy will always look for your if you go into politics, you have to think to yourself, like, what did I do in my life? Because it's going to come after you, right? But a imagine a person who has such a good life that even when they go after him or her, there's nothing. There's nothing. The only thing they're able to do is make up stories. Okay, that should be an amazing thing, right? That's all we have. That all they have for us is making up stories because we're in such a good space. Okay, Amar Papa lididi chashtan velo havabi. He said, Rav Papa says I was suspected, but I didn't do anything wrong. What is he referring to? The Gemara says elsewhere. The Gemara says Rav Papa was once climbing a ladder, and the rung he was on towards the top. The rung of the ladder fell, snapped, and he was like almost died. And so he said he was sitting there like, what did I do? What did I do? And one of his colleagues said, maybe a poor person came. You didn't give the person. He didn't give the poor person money, based on a pasuk like Ashrei Maskal Adol. There's a pasuk there which references which perhaps could be a reference to a rung, and Rav Papa says no such thing happens, right? So the idea being that again he was suspected, but he was clean of sin. Okay, Amrav Yossi Chamesh Bi'ilos Ba'alti performed 5 marital acts. He was intimate 5 times. V'natati Chamisha Razim Yisrael, and he sowed seeds for 5 cedars within the Jewish people. He had 5 children who were incredible people, leaders of the Jewish people. Man Inon, who were they? Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chalafta, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Avtilas, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Yossi. Ask the Gemara, Varika Vardimas. What about Vardimas, another one of his sons? So he says, Hainu Vardimas, Hainu Menachem. Menachem is actually Vardimas. It's just a nickname. V'mai Karle Vardimas. Why do they call him Vardimas? Shapanav Dom Levered. The word Vardimas comes from the word vered, rose. His face, he had like the rosy complexion. Okay, ask the Gemara. Lememer Rav Yossi mitzvahs onolokia. He implies that he was only intimate 5 times. How could that be? That means he wasn't. There's a mitzvah to be intimate, not just for the sake of procreation. So does that mean Rav Yossi didn't fulfill his, this basic obligation? Ella ema chamesh be'ilos ba'alti v'shanisi. 5 times he performed the marital act. He was intimate 2 times immediately in a row, and the Gemara says that this is like it could be a segula, it could be in some way leading to the birth of males, and that's why that's what he was referring to. It didn't mean those were the only 5 times he was intimate, but he was intimate doubly so. Okay, I'm Rav Yossi. Miyamar lekarisli ishti l'shari shari. All my days I never call my wife, my ox, ishti basi. I referred to my wife as my house. What that means is he respected and appreciated what she was able to do, how she was able to contribute to the upkeep of his house, and that was the name that he gave her in the sense that he understood and appreciated what she was able to do. Ulashari sadi, he called his ox my field, in the sense that it was what contributed to his field. Rav Yossi, all my days I never looked at my circumcised member. Okay, he never looked. Aini asked the Gemara, Rebbe. They said to Rebbe, my time akarlach Rabbeinu Kadosh. Why do they call you holy rabbi? Right, that was the nickname for Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And he said, because all my days I never gazed at my circumcised member. So the Gemara asks if that was the reason why he was called Rabbeinu Kadosh, we should also call Rav Yossi Rabbeinu Kadosh. He also did the same thing. So the Gemara says, but Rebbe milsachriti havabe. Rebbe had an additional modest habit, that he never placed his hand below his belt. The Mefarshim explained, doesn't mean literally below, in the sense below his belt, meaning he didn't touch his circumcised member. That's what it means, and that's why they called him holy for both of those things. So I'm Rav Yossi. All my days, my house never saw the seams of my tunic. Okay, so back in the day, they did not sleep clothed, and so what people do, you would get undressed. You only had people who had like 1, maybe 2 pieces of clothing. They would get undressed and go under their covers. Their covers were their clothing. But he would get undressed under his bed. He wouldn't get undressed and then go under his covers. He would go under his covers and then take off the tunic. So the walls of his house never saw him undressed. Rav Yossi, all my days I never disobeyed the words of my colleagues. For example, he says, I know that I'm not a Kohen. If my friends say, go and duchen, go up there and say Birkas Kohanim, and you'll go up. Now the Mefarshim deal with this, like, what are you talking about? You can't just go up and be duchen if you're not a Kohen. Fine, deal with it. I never said something about someone and had to retreat when he confronted me. What is he referring to? So this is actually machlokis in the Hilchos Lashon Hara. Sometimes people say, I would say it's the person's face, right? It's not so bad, I would say it's the person's face. So the truth is, there is a view that says that that's okay. If you would say something to someone's face, that's not called Lashon Hara. However, we don't pass it this way. We pass it that even if you would say it to someone's face, that's still Lashon Hara. But Rav Yossi was of the opinion that if you'd say something to someone's face and you wouldn't retract, then that's not Lashon Hara. But the bottom line is it's certainly an important thing to think about. People, we say things and they come back to us. And it's important to know, to realize that everything we say, there is no such thing as anything that's private. Just happened to be. It just was weighing in on some particular situation, and a family member involved, reached out to me, and it's a serious conversation. But to recognize, anything we say, whether it's public or private, there's no such thing. And do we really stand by this? Is it something we really believe in? And if not, think twice, 3 times, and 4 times. Omer Nachman, Tasty Li, I should get a reward. Dekayamti shalosh sudas b'Shabbos, because I ate shalosh sudas. Now, the Gemara is going to give a whole bunch of list of different things that these Amoraim did, and we're saying get reward. Now, shalosh sudas, we said, is a mitzvah. Like, what do you mean get reward? It's like, I kept Shabbos. Shkayach. I mean, what does that mean? So what we see over here is that each of these Amoraim had one mitzvah, that was their mitzvah. There was like, this is their thing. They had like, what's your, and the idea is that no matter what, they kept it. It's such an important idea to recognize, like, and it could be a lifetime to figure out, like, what is my mitzvah? What is my calling? What is the thing that no matter what I'm going to do? And this is me. This is me. Like, oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name in Mattersdorf. Pinchas Steinberg, right? His mitzvah was tzitzis, right? His mitzvah was tzitzis. Like people, have you ever seen a picture of Pinchas Steinberg? He looked like a football player. He was a skin, tiny person, right? He wore like 100 things of tzitzis. Why? That was his thing. But the point is, for him, tzitzis, now again, it doesn't mean you have to be extreme. It could mean you wear tzitzis. It could mean you, whatever it is. But the point is that, people ask him, oh, should we also do this? And no, this is my thing. Like, don't copy me. Like, he knew, based on whatever, he knew this was his mitzvah, right? And so the idea is that each of us have something that speaks to us, something that pulls our neshama. We have to figure out what it is and grab it. And like, no matter what, don't lose it, right? So for him, for Rav Nachman and Shal Shudas, remember Yehuda Tasty I should get reward kameli dekaimis im tefillah. For me, it was the contemplation, the learning tefillah in depth. Amar Rav Huna Braid Rav Yeshua Tasty lo sagina arba amos begila rosh. I should get a reward because I never walked with my head uncovered for amos. The Mefarshim point out there's a big discussion around this statement over here. Do you learn from here that wearing a yarmulke is midas chaschidus? That it's not necessarily a mitzvah, but rather it's a minhag. And there's a lot of discussion about this. So it seems most Mefarshim understand from this Gemara that wearing a yarmulke is not an absolute obligation. However, the Taz and many others come along and say nowadays it became such a strongly held minhag that it might be something where it's an absolute obligation. But even that, many push back on, and many say if there's like financial considerations. Otherwise, they're based on this Gemara. It seems like it's not a full-fledged obligation. Amar Rav Sheshes, and it's a minhag, strong minhag. Amar Rav Sheshes tasili dekaimis mitzvah tefillin. I should get a reward because I kept the mitzvah tefillin. Again, of course he wore tefillin. The point is this is like his thing, no matter what. From Nachman tasili dekaimis mitzvah tzitzis. I should get a reward because I kept the mitzvah tzitzis. Amar le Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef Brei de Rabba. Rav Yosef said to Rav Yosef son of Rabba, Avuch b'may zar tvei. What was your father especially careful about? Amar le tzitzis. With tzitzis, yom achad hava kasali b'darga. He's going up a ladder. Ipsik le chuta. One string was cut short. Okay, now if one string of your tzitzis cut short, your tzitzis are 100% valid, right? If you have 8 strings and one string cut short, you're good because it's really you really have only 4 strings on your tzitzis, and if one side gets cut, the other side is still there, so it's 100% fine. Nonetheless, lo nachis v'asa kamad l'ramya, he would not come back down until he fixed it and put a new string. So the point is, again, over the top. I find your mitzvah and run with it. Make this your thing. Whenever I see a scholar who finishes a mesechta, avina yom tov l'Rabbanan, I make a holiday for the rabbis. This is the source, by the way, for making a siyum. This is the source. Making a siyum. It's important to make a siyum to celebrate when this happens. Amar Rava tasli asid tzur b'Rabbanan. This next one is a little hard. Like Rabbanan l'kamay l'dina. When a rabbinical student comes before me in a lawsuit, lamazigna reishi. I don't rest my head. Abei sadra on the pillow. Until I find a merit in this case. Now, I'm first say, what do you mean? That is he biased over here? Some say yes. Some say what it means is that he would not go to sleep until he finished the case. Like he would treat them extra, not that he would treat them deferentially in the sense that he would rule in their favor, but rather the idea is that he would not go to sleep until he would finish the case. Meaning, as opposed to waiting the next day. Amar Ravashi, Ravashi says better. He says I'm disqualified to be a judge for a rabbinic student. My time to chaviva like gufai, because I love them so much. If a Talmud Chacham would come before me, I would not be able to judge them. Why? I love them so much. A person cannot see the liability regarding oneself, which, by the way, is just an important thing, not just about others that we love, but about ourselves, right? We have to recognize that, we can look in the mirror all we want, but the bottom line is that we have incredible biases. Baruch Hashem, it comes from a good place. We see ourselves in a positive light, and therefore it's important to recognize that we are limited in our ability to see ourselves. Have a wonderful day.